What are the biggest issues I see with intermediate lifters? And I'll start by saying the biggest issue I see with beginners is
Get the fuck up. Simon says, get the fuck up. Throw your hands in the sky.
I'll start by saying the biggest issue I see with beginners is technique. You know, beginners need to really focus on technique, you know, on all exercises to make sure that their technique is solid, it's good. And beginners also need to focus on, you know, do they feel it in the right way? You know, are they developing the neuromuscular coordination? But the question is not about the beginners. The question is about the intermediate. So intermediate, I would define as those people who are not beginners, but yet they're not advanced. Advanced being, you know, highly competitive or have a training age or a competitive training age, well, in the 10 to 15 year range. So, and even some of these things you will find with these guys, but you're not going to find them with the best, you know, because the best have kind of figured this out. And these are in no specific order. The first is confidence, you know, the mental approach, you know, how they're approaching the bar, how they're approaching the training, and how they're approaching the whole process. You know, the mental approach with the lift, you know, there is an arousal curve. You know, you can Google it. But I mean, if you get too fired up, you're going to fuck it up. You know, if you don't get fired up enough, you know, you may lose, you know, some of the lift. You know, if you train in a competitive mindset too frequently in training, well, then you're not going to have there should be a difference between your training max and competitive max of between 5 and 7%. I've seen some people even as high as 10 to 12%. You know, and that's the rest. Obviously, it's the rest beforehand, and it's, you know, bloating up and, you know, and the competitive mindset as well. So you can see it in their eyes though if they're doing a set and it's a challenging set and you can see any doubt, you know, the confidence isn't there. You know, they need to understand that just because shit feels heavy doesn't mean you can't lift it. And it's acquired over time. It's acquired over adversity, you know, and they need to understand that there's not a whole lot of injuries that are going to put you out for good. You know, if you're real competitive, you know, you can pretty much come back from anything. You know, so a competitive mindset is, you know, you pull a muscle, you're more concerned with how long will this take. You know, not all the other factors, you know, that come along with it. So having that confidence and not overconfidence to where you're missing shit all the time. Because to me, that's not confidence, that's fucking fear. Confidence is taking the weight you know you can make, not taking the weight that you hope that you'll make. All right, because if you're taking a weight that you hope that you can make, are you not telling yourself that there's a good chance you'll miss it? See, these are the confidence issues that I'm kind of talking about with that. And that's having confidence in the training as well. You know, having the confidence that you can make the adjustments needed as training for the meet that need to be made. That just because the training's going wrong, you can still adjust and change and make it go right at the meet. You know, being able to get over a bad day. You know, bad days happen. You know, just chalk it up as a bad day, move forward. You know, this is a lesson that's learned during the intermediate phase. And I don't know how to focus on it more so than I already have, except just there's a level of confidence that it's like an optimal level that needs to be there. You know, that's not too much, not too little. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but it's another way to look at it is some people will say, wow, that guy gets really psyched up for his lift. That guy, he just walks up and does it. That guy needs music, this guy doesn't. This guy needs ammonia, this guy doesn't. You got to do whatever you need to do to be able to have the confidence, at least for the lift, that you need to be able to do. But it extends past that. You need to be able to have the confidence to know that, you know, you'll make it to the meet, that the meet's going to go well, you know, that everything's going to be well. That you got to have confidence that you're going to get better in the sport, and if you'll make the decisions and know when to change. So that's the first one. The second is it's a holding air. You know, it's holding air, breathing. There's so many. And this is another one. I mean, you can Google this because it's really interesting, because it's learning how to hold your air in your core, your diaphragm. You know, learning to breathe, you know, through your stomach. And this has been around forever. You know, this is not a new thing. And, you know, Louis was writing about it years ago. I remember an article from Powerlifting USA that was even, you know, before Louis was talking about it, that was writing about, you know, the same thing, learning how to breathe, learning how to brace. And, you know, since then, you know, many other authors have come out. And when you read the introductions to a lot of these articles, they look like they're contradicting each other. But when you look at what they're actually doing, it's all the same. You know, so it really doesn't matter what source that you look at to try to figure out what I'm talking about. Pretty much everybody's saying the same thing, or at least 90% of everybody's saying the same thing. You know, being able to pull the air, you know, into your belly, diaphragm, whatever clicks with you. You know, that's where there's differences with this. Is sometimes there's learning cues that people will use that they found works better if they're teaching seminars or teaching clients than what's actually going on. For instance, a great example of this is when I'm teaching people how to box squat. You know, I used to tell them stay tight, you know, keep everything tight, and then flex back off. You know, when you flex off, try to flex off explosively. And they weren't getting it. You know, they were sitting on there and barely putting any weight on the box at all. And I can't say relax your ass, you know, because then their back would always relax. So we just started saying relax your hip flexors. Keep in mind that's fucking impossible in a seated position. But it worked. You know, people got it. Then they started to understand, oh, sit down, pause, come up fast. Same kind of thing is going on with this whole breathing thing. What people are writing is what they're using with their own cueing. You know, so I've always told people, you know, pull air into your belly. And, you know, others will say pull air into your, you know, diaphragm, or pull air in and try to push it against your back. I'll tell people push against the belt. The thing is, you want to try to pull air into your core and then, you know, expand that core in all directions. You know, so the whole thing is just tight. You know, like a tight, yeah. Like a rock, you know, and won't move. That is one that is immensely important. I wrote about it in one of the first articles I wrote on the squat for T-Nation many years ago. That's what basically sold me on Louis Simmons, is he taught me how to do this between a first and second attempt in a meet, and I went from, you know, missing a lift to absolutely destroying a lift. And thought, wow, this is pretty important shit, you know, and I never thought about it before because I read about it before, but never put one and one together because I figured, you know what, I'm fucking breathing. You know, so if you read an article by somebody and they're telling you how to do this and you're practicing whatever drills they're telling you to do and it doesn't work, find another article by somebody else, you know, who has credibility. Let's put that out there, who has credibility. And if that doesn't work, find somebody else who's got credibility. Because I'm telling you, they're all saying the same thing. All saying the same thing. It's just the way I may tell you to do it may be different than the way somebody else may tell you to do it. You may not get it with the way that I'm telling you, but you'll get it the way somebody else is telling you. I'm just advising you to figure it out and get it. One way to test it is stand in front of a mirror, you know, get in your squat stance and pull air. You know, pull your air in like you would if you were squatting. If your shoulders come up, then you're not pulling air where you should. All right, then you need to start looking at trying to pull into, your belly, as I say. And if that doesn't work, but when you pull into your belly, it's push. I like to say push out against the belt, but you got to push out against the belt, forward, sideways, all through there. Actually, they should be tighter in the sides than it is to the front when you go to push out. And just lock all that down. And if my explanation doesn't help or the articles that I've put out doesn't help, like I said, and I'll reinforce it again, go read somebody else's. Forget the first paragraph. That's just, we'll just chalk that up as, everybody trying to clickbait everybody else. But get to the core of the shit, and you're going to see that everybody's kind of doing the same stuff. The third is learning how to let the weight settle. And by that, if you're squatting, you have to take the bar out and just, the way I explain it is just let the weight become one with your body and the floor. So when you squat, you don't want to take it out and be holding that weight up, up on your back, almost like you're trying to shoulder press it. You want that weight to compress into you. Think of it as trying to have that bar compress you to be a couple inches shorter. Just let it come into your body and absorb into your body. And it also helps to dig your traps and your back into the bar, wedge into the bar beforehand, because it will help with this. And by doing that, the weight's going to settle. It's not going to be moving around. It's just going to settle. And once that weight settles, then you can squat. Because if there's any excess movement that's unnecessary, especially on the barbell, that's going to become greater through the lift, not less through the lift. And then you're going to end up missing the lift for something stupid. Same thing with the bench press. The bench press, probably it's more important if you think about it, because when you take it out, you're benching on, a pad and wood. So you take it out and you're a big bencher. Who cares how much his bench is? There's still going to be some compression of the pad, unless it's a really, really lightweight. The pad's going to compress just a little bit, or some guys are going to compress a little bit more. It's foam. If you got 800 pounds, 700 pounds, and you weigh 300 pounds and you take it out, that pad's going to compress just a little bit. You got to hold that weight, let that weight settle. And then it compresses into the pad, the weight stops moving, then you can break the arms. This is with a shirt, this is raw, it's the same thing. With the deadlift, it's more a matter of get your body settled, before you instigate the pull, or before you begin to pull the slack out of the bar. Get everything set, and tight, and then pull. Those are the three biggest mistakes or most common mistakes I see with intermediate lifters that have the most dramatic impact if they're corrected. Louis made the point in the statement that if you pulled 500 pounds the first time you ever deadlifted, then what did you do to be able to pull 500 pounds? Horse balls. Well, it's a great question. My answer is buy a fucking horse. Buy a horse, you got horse balls. Takes care of that one.